When you called him Floyd, I know it was in a bad light, but some people could take that as a compliment. I'm sure you didn't mean it that way.
I meant it that our black fighters fight in a style that is not pleasing to the fans, let's just say, and that's why they don't sell. Some of the black fighters, I had a young man named Terry Norris, who I molded in a Mexican style. He was an attacker, he was a killer, he's going to come and hurt you.
A few moments later.
Now, fight fans, this is Terry Norris. I believe 3 or 4-time world champion, light middleweight killer, just a devastating puncher, just all around fucking hell of a fighter. Now, yeah, you did do that. You did mold him into somewhat of a Mexican style. And he went out there and banged. And now if we look back on the career of Terry Norris, and if Terry would have used all his intangibles instead of the one-dimensional nature in which you put him in, I wonder how Terry would be appreciating his quality of life right now. Now let's look at Terry in all of his glory. And let's look at Terry now. Damn. Love that dude, man.
Well, it's a sad victory, really. You're my idol. Beating my idol. It's really sad, but he's a great fighter, still my idol. I never lose respect for his man. Never.
Did you feel that you were in such control you could waste a couple of rounds? A couple of times you got in there and you were just kind of playing the round away.
Well, first of all, I like to give thanks to my Lord Almighty, and that's my power. Thank you, Lord.
Indeed it is.
Now repeat your question, please.
Where you
see some of the best fighters in the world can barely walk, stumbling around. It's sad.
Looking back now, was it worth it?
I wouldn't say it was. I put my family on the map. I made my dad happy. He passed away now. We were like best friends.
Now, I'm sure answering that question was a double-edged sword for Terry. Because, of course, you made your dad proud. You put your family on the map. Your brother put your family on the map. But at the end of the day, health is wealth. And when you have such a beautiful wife and you're trying to take care of your family and you're trying to maintain, I'm sure these are the things that get to him as well. And, man, it's sad to see such a great man and a strong man in that state. But the amazing things his wife and himself are trying to do for boxers and the after effects of being a warrior was a beautiful thing. So much respect to Terry Norris. But yet and still, it's a double-edged sword because once again, health is wealth. And I'm sure if he could do it all over again, the style that Abel Sanchez say that he molded him into, he would have used a lot more of his intangibles to probably avoid being in a state or a situation like this. But God bless him.
I made my dad happy. He had 2 sons. Both his sons became world champions. So that's why I made him happy. I truly believe he's the reason why I won the world title championship, the championship 4 times.
He's in danger of going down. Let's see if Norris.
He's the reason why I'm a Hall of Famer. He's the reason why, I'm history. He's the reason.
He was a killer, he's going to come and hurt you. Unfortunately, some of the fighters now is more of the sweet science. Fans don't want to see the sweet science, no matter what they say. Fans want to see somebody get hurt.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb, for real.
And when I said that he was like Mayweather, he fought in a very defensive style like Mayweather. But watch Mayweather when he was a 35-pounder and a 30-pounder. He was a killer then. No, he fought to knock you out.
Yes, Mayweather was a killer. And he did fight to hurt you, but what you're not understanding is, of course, Mayweather consistently moved up in weight, and he hurt his freaking hand, so he still couldn't pour on the same type of offensive output that he could, so he had to step back and become more of a defensive fighter. See, these are the things that you want to throw out there with your little narrative, but you are completely dismissive. But see, you wouldn't know that because, you know, you're not in the ring. You're not getting beat on. You're not avoiding all of these punches. You don't have these highly nuanced skill set. This is something you wouldn't begin to understand, but this is something you definitely try to love to shit on. And you're trying to save face right now, considering the bullshit, you know, racist comments that you threw out there. But hey, this isn't necessarily what this video is about.
He fought to hurt you. So Canelo, what did I say the other day? Conor McGregor turned Mayweather into a Mexican fighter, and Golovkin turned Canelo into a Mayweather. You know, I don't believe that he can do that again and allow himself to be ridiculed by the fans in his own home country.
It's funny that you say that, because when it comes down to Canelo, when Canelo adopting so-called Mayweather style and people saying he learned so much from the Mayweather laws, he started shifting his shoulders, using his angles, etc., etc. You can see it in the Austin Trout fight, and I just rescored that fight last night as a matter of fact. But people embrace that. You know, people love that. They praise Canelo for embracing the great aspects of what Floyd Mayweather is, but you guys criticize every other African-American fighter for having these attributes. But with Canelo, you praise it. When it comes to the African-American fighters, you criticize it. You don't want to see it. You know, you say it's boring. You avoid it. So, I mean, what is it? You know what I'm saying? You can't have it both ways. It's a lot of contradicting shit going on. And, you know, we can't be dismissive of these things. So, you know, you want to embrace the beautiful parts of it. Not saying Abel Sanchez, this fighter, was Triple G. He can't do those things. But, you know, a majority of the Latino community, I would say the fans of Canelo, they embrace these things. But, you know, you shit on Floyd Mayweather and say try to take advantage of, you know, Canelo Alvarez and all of these things, and you create all of these excuses, but you guys say that he learned so much. So what is it? You know, I mean, are you appreciative of the nuances, or are black fighters born? Because, you know, it's a double-edged sword. And, you know, I'm just saying, you know, the narratives are bullshit. You guys, in some way, shape, or form, some people just don't know where to land. What's up, fight fans? It's your man 3K the Boss, aka Mr. Two Hands Up. You already know what it is. Now, there's this thing going on in boxing. I call it the Dirty Sanchez effect. Now, we heard what Abel Sanchez originally said, and now he's going and trying to save face. And, of course, you know what I'm saying, Smelly Nutsack and other individuals would allow him to get away with that. Now, you know, it's funny that it says black fighters don't sell, but Mayweather is, you know, the biggest ticket seller. Him, Mike Tyson, and several other individuals who sold throughout time. See, the thing what Abel Sanchez was really trying to say here, and what other guys like Oscar de La Hoya, and so many other individuals like Eddie Reynoso and these guys, they will go out of their way to avoid anybody with movement. And look, dig this. Just because you're African American, it doesn't have to be necessarily an African American fighter. Any fighter that has great footwork and movement. Certain fighters of certain ethnicities who only have a come straight forward, streamlined style that can only move forward, take a bunch of shots on some sock and bop and robot shit, will consistently try to avoid it because it's bad for their business, it's bad for their bottom line. And these are the fighters who come see them, these are the fighters who are coming to get trained by them, these are the one-dimensional fighters. It's almost like Abel Sanchez is saying, hey, we want all of you fighters to abandon the skill set that, you know, great fighters like Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson, and so many other individuals, Nicolino Loche, you know, the list, Joe Calzaghe, you know, all had underneath their belt, and they just want you to forego that, to stand in the middle of the ring, to be sock and bop and robots because they say that's what's pleasing the fans. No, it's only pleasing for you and those who are just like you, because you need somebody to sit still. You don't need somebody moving around, popping the jab, hitting you with combinations, getting out of the way, shifting shoulders, and completely making you guys look befuddled and just showing all of your lack of thereof that you have to offer in this in the boxing ring when it comes to the sweet science, because when it comes down to it, the sweet science isn't where you necessarily prevail. The only way that you can prevail is to show heart. When they talk about Mexican style is nothing more than standing in the center of the ring, throwing freaking your fist until you lose all of your faculties and you have nothing left, and hopefully you come out on top by consistently walking through punches and wearing a guy out until you can get a hold of him. Well, that wasn't what the sport was built on. And if you think that fighters are supposed to just abandon skill set just to please you, or just to give you and certain Latino fans to stroke their ego the ability to look more than what they are, or larger, or have a skill set that they truly don't have, no fighter is going to be that stupid and to fall into that trap. So now the narrative has been presented, and see what he just did a few years ago in saying this. All he did was basically show exactly how certain Latino coaches and certain Latino fans and certain Latino fighters really feel about the threat there is of the sweet science, the art of hitting and not getting hit, because you don't have the ability to keep up. Your feet are stuck in the mud. You just can't understand what it is about these fighters that you just can't catch up, and you don't have it. Because I'm here to tell you this: if you had that movement, if you had that footwork, if you had that ability to keep up, stick and move, drive combinations down another freaking opponent's throat, you would be using that to your advantage. It's called using your advantages. Julio Cesar Chavez never bitched about his disadvantages. Roberto Duran never bitched about his disadvantages. Alexis Aguayo never bitched about his disadvantages. But then you've got great fighters, you know what I'm saying, like Hector Macho Camacho, who had these advantages. You never heard of any of these guys ever making complaints about their advantages and disadvantages. Those who had to go up against Prince Nassim Hamed, they didn't bitch. They figured out ways to go ahead and find the victory. You know, see, the thing about it is, when you hear individuals call a person boring, that is just a short way of saying, you know, we're going to do anything to, you know, tarnish whatever skill set that you guys have to present you to look a certain way. So it drives a narrative. Because you see that narrative is forever evident now when it comes to the sport of boxing, and mixing it up with certain individuals that they would just go out of their way and try to avoid it. And they try to say, oh, you know, I want to go out there and please the fans and please the fans. Look, if you're trying to go out there and please the fans, it doesn't matter if a person has a certain particular skill set or not. You're going to do whatever you do to get the job done. That's what you go through training for. That's what you're supposed to train for, your advantages against another person's disadvantages, and to train to cut off a person's advantages against you. So when I sit here and think about this, this is probably one of the biggest freaking ploys to try to sabotage the African-American fighting style, or the sweet science in a whole. It doesn't even have to boil down to that, just African-Americans, because I've already highlighted Joe Calzaghe. I've already highlighted Hector Camacho, Nicolino Loche, and so many other individuals just like them who had these styles. So at the end of the day, you know, I would never hear of a guy like a Jake LaMotta, you know, bitch about these things. My thing is, you know, you guys want to change the status quo and want people to fall in the realm of what, you know, just say, hey, let's just sit in the middle of the ring and just slug it out, so that way, you know, you give my fighters an opportunity to win. Because you can't go out there and get it any other way when the sweet science is on the line. Now, this is the thing about boxing. Cuban fighters have this style. Cuban fighters have the style of the sweet science, and they've adapted it for a very long time. Nobody's ever complained about the great fighters from Cuba who have come over and they have used that style. See, now, all of a sudden, it is a ploy to freaking help, you know, your record as a coach, to help you get that coach of the year, to help you try to poison the minds of individuals who think that boxing is solely supposed to be about standing in the middle of the ring and slug until you have no brains left in your freaking head. You don't fall for this freaking trap. And today we are consistently living in a world to where you hear this word boring when it comes to special fighters with special skill sets who have outstanding freaking boxing attributes, that they can play this game of dodgeball in certain communities, especially the Latino community, you know, the Filipino community, and certain other communities who have these favorite fighters who are lacking in these areas, to where they consistently will try to call another fighter boring or try to will their way and try to say, oh, this fighter ran, that fighter ran, because they know it's not they ran. You just can't keep up. The speed is too much, the footwork is too much, the angles are too much, and it just makes you look less of what you are. And I guess you guys are so freaking insecure, you are tired of looking less than what you are. I thought it was the world of boxing. I thought when we embrace the sport in the whole, we think of all of the different styles from all around the world, and we take them all into consideration, and they're all adaptive in so many different ways. That's what makes the sport beautiful. But boxing has always been the sport of hitting and not getting hit. So if the sweet science is such a boring practice, then why is Muhammad Ali the greatest fighter of all time? Why is Sugar Ray Leonard arguably top 5 greatest fighters of all time? And when you think of other individuals who fall in the top 10 greatest fighters of all time, they had that sweet science with them as well. I'm sick and tired when it comes to other individuals that they can just jump out there and you can just crap all on my community and constantly, love to bash and shit on my community. But when it comes and our skill set and our attributes or whatever the case may be, but when it comes to, pointing out the things that you guys are saying, and when you blatantly said it, and when you're consistently doing it, and you have guys like Oscar Valdez who's avoiding every African-American fighter that he could ever come across, when you got other guys like Miguel Burchelt, who's avoided every other African-American fighter he can come across, and I'm a big fan of Burchelt and everybody knows it, but still, these are the facts. And then you keep going up the list and it goes on and on. Jaime Munguia, do I need to continue? Oscar de La Hoya, he wants Jaime Munguia to get Triple G, but if Andre get it, the fight makes no sense because it's boring.
A few moments later.
People were talking about Triple G versus Demetrius Andrade. Why? It just doesn't make sense. I mean, Andrade, yes, go after somebody else. Go after like Charlo.
He needs to fight Charlo.
He has to. I mean, the Charlos have to fight him. Absolutely, but a fight that would be like amazing, that's action-packed, that is not going to be boring, that is not going to be stylistically a snoozer, it's going to be Jaime Munguia versus Triple G. That's the bottom line.
That's fireworks all written all over.
Andre doesn't have a freaking boring style. What that does is a slick southpaw with in and out movement and the type of power that he has. You're worried about it's affecting your bottom line. Look, it's slim pickings and very few and far between. You guys don't want to lose. You guys just don't want to lose. And this is the problem that we have in boxing today. Instead of having the heart and the ability to go out there and to want to win and want to will yourself forward and prove that you're one of the greats, you would rather hide behind your narratives, criticize another individual, criticize the many beauties and blessings that the sweet science and the world of boxing and all of its techniques has to offer, and say that, hey, you guys can't sell, you bring nothing to the table, you're boring, what have you done? I can avoid it, I can continuously avoid it over and over and over and over again. Well, it's not working and the plot is not sticking, because when you look at the record and you start looking at certain individuals, and I'm not saying anybody particular here, you see that movement is a consistent problem, and they've been trying to sabotage the sweet science and all of the great things that go along with it, especially on what's considered to be an African-American style of boxing. I mean, even today, and it's absolutely sad. And for real, I'm highly disappointed that you guys look at it this way. Because the funny thing, when it comes down to Canelo Alvarez and him taking his L from Floyd Mayweather, the whole world would like to say that, Canelo learned a lot from that ass whooping that he got from Floyd Mayweather, and he's adapting, trying to use shoulder roll movement, trying to get on the balls of his feet, get out the way, etc., and everybody is cool with that. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, people don't want to see him entertain these type of things. Triple G goes out of his way to not entertain these type of things, and several other fighters go out of their way to entertain these type of things. Look, you're never going to get rid of us. We're never going to go anywhere. The science will always prevail. Skill set, athleticism will always evolve, and there will always be a nuanced perspective on what certain fighters are bringing to the table in the sweet science. And that's why you got guys like Shakur Stevenson who are always going to have a problem with getting a fight. Boo Boo Andrade will always have a problem with getting a fight. When it came down to Canelo and meeting Eris Landry Lara, he wouldn't revisit that fight. All I'm saying is, you know, the great fighters of the world like the Julio Cesar Chavez and so many other individuals, they would have never complained about these things. They would have always willed their way and found a way to win. And in their competitive nature and their competitive drive, they would have always went out there and tried to, you know, break the wheel. And understanding that, you know, even with their style, there is a way to prevent that movement, and that is to flood the basement up with water and consistently, you know, cut the fighter off on the ring and trap him and, you know, unload and make the fighter fold. So according to these individuals who bash the styles, you know, that it's supposedly born and this and that of that nature, that since when did this become, boxing just became a Mexican sport? I've always believed that it was the world of boxing, and once again, embracing the style. So now we're just supposed to exist in a world where everybody's just supposed to adopt the Mexican style. Why would they do that? And when you speak on Terry Norris and you made him a Mexican, fight with a Mexican style, look at Terry Norris now and the amazing things he's trying to do with his wife to help with brain damage. So I do believe that style attributed to that. I mean, you can sensationalize victories, but you don't have to stand in the ring and get hit. And those who choose to, I'm not hating on you. I'm just lending perspective, that's all. Now, I wonder if you feel the same thing about guys like Josh Taylor, or if anybody feels the same way about guys like Josh Taylor, because he uses, you know, more of the African-American style, you know, the movement, you know, the hitting, not getting hit, stand lateral, popping the jab, punching in barrages with combination, and he's stopping guys as well as Terrence Crawford. Of course, he uses the style, and the things that he said when people got their panties in a bunch might be real. Now, I don't agree about the, you know, the Jamal Charlo aspect, because I definitely believe that Canelo would stop him in devastating fashion, but the fact still remains that these guys got hella knockout streaks. They go out there, they put on, they perform, they sensationalize a fight, but you guys are dismissive of them because they are threats. They are far from born. We are far from born. Any fighter of any race or creed who has this fighting style, Prince Nassim Hamed was far from boring. Willie Pep was far from boring. And when we look back on the history books, you know, these are the fighters that are praised, and these are, you know, the guys that really go out there and, you know, they put on an absolute show. Now, if everybody was coming forward and they were just getting hit in the face and getting clapped and knocked and laid down, then people would be like, yo, there's got to be more to boxing than just this. And whoever presented, you know, that sweet style and found a way to get around just being hit in the mouth and standing and being stationary, you would find a way outside of that. Even in the Mexican style, you guys aren't just going to stand in the ring and get hit. You guys are adopting a sense of, you know, understanding that you have to stay lateral, keep your head off the line so you don't get, you know, knocked the fuck out. And where does that come from? That comes from an element of the sweet science. So let's not disrespect the sweet science and everything that it entails, and let's embrace it and embrace all the styles. As we always say, it costs you nothing to pay a nigga no mind. I hope people take from this what I'm saying and don't try to look at it from the ignorant, bigoted perspective that some people would like to, you know, attack others with. It's the motherfucking boss. Respect.
Dime on the niggas. You know what I'm saying? I don't like that shit for sure, bro. I don't like that shit.
No.